The fourth season of the American science fiction horror drama television series Stranger Things was released worldwide on the streaming service Netflix in 2 volumes. The first set of 7 episodes was released on May 27, 2022, while the second set of 2 episodes was released on July 1, 2022. The season was produced by the show's creators, the Duffer Brothers, along with Sean Levy, Dan Cohen, Ian Patterson, and Curtis Gwynn. Returning as series regulars are Winona Ryder, David Harbour, Millie Bobby Brown, Finn Wolfhard, Gaten Matarazzo, Caleb McLaughlin, Noah Schnapp, Sadie Sink, Natalia Dyer, Charlie Heaton, Joe Keery, Maya Hawke, Prye Ferguson, Matthew Modine and Paul Reiser, while Brett Gelman was promoted to series regular after recurring in the previous 2 seasons. Jamie Campbell Bower, Joseph Quinn, Eduardo Franco, and Cara Buono also star. Tom Olaskaha, Nicola Urico, and Mason Dye appear in recurring roles. The season was met with positive reviews, with critics praising the performances of the cast, the visuals, action sequences, realistic themes, emotional weight, and the darker, more mature tone, though some criticized it for being overstuffed due to the lengthier episode runtimes. The first volume of the season received 13 nominations for the 74th Primetime Emmy Awards, including Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Drama Series. Overview. Stranger Things is set in the fictional rural town of Hawkins, Indiana, during the 1980s. The nearby Hawkins National Laboratory ostensibly performs scientific research for the United States Department of Energy, but secretly does experiments into the paranormal and supernatural, including those that involve human test subjects. Inadvertently, they have created a portal to an alternate dimension, the Upside Down. The influence of the Upside Down starts to affect the unknowing residents of Hawkins in calamitous ways. The first season begins in November 1983. Will Byers is abducted by a creature from the Upside Down. His mother, Joyce, the town's police chief, Jim Hopper, and a group of volunteers search for him. A young psychokinetic girl named Eleven escapes from the laboratory and is found by friends of Will. Eleven befriends and assists them in their efforts to find Will. The second season is set a year later in October 1984. Will has been rescued, but he begins having premonitions of the fall of Hawkins caused by a creature in the Upside Down. When it is discovered that Will is still being possessed by an entity from the Upside Down, his friends and family learn that there is a larger threat to their universe. The third season is set several months later, in the days leading up to the 4th of July celebration in 1985. The new Starcourt Mall has become the center of attention for Hawkins residents, putting the majority of other local stores out of business due to the mall's popularity. Hopper becomes increasingly concerned about Eleven and Mike's relationship and becomes very protective of his daughter. Unbeknownst to the town, a secret Soviet laboratory under Starcourt seeks to open the gateway to the Upside Down. Meanwhile, the Mind Flayer uses mind control to make Billy do his bidding. The fourth season is set several months later, in March 1986. Joyce, Will, Eleven, and Jonathan have moved to Lenora, California for a fresh start. In California, Eleven struggles with the loss of her powers and being bullied in school. Meanwhile in Hawkins, a being from the Upside Down, an entity later dubbed Vecna, begins killing the residents of Hawkins, opening new gates between the two worlds in the process. Planning to stop Vecna, Dr. Sam Owens and Dr. Martin Brenner take Eleven to a facility to help her regain her powers. Meanwhile, Joyce and Murray fly to Russia to rescue Hopper from the Gulag in Kamchatka. Cast and characters. Winona Ryder as Joyce Byers, the mother of Will and Jonathan Byers. She is divorced from Lonnie Byers, the father of Will and Jonathan. In Season 2, she dates her old high school classmate, Bob, until his death later in the season. She and Hopper have feelings for each other. David Harbour as Jim Hopper, chief of Hawkins Police Department. After his young daughter Sarah died of cancer, Hopper divorced and lapsed into alcoholism. Eventually, he grows to be more responsible, saving Will Byers after he is taken in Season 1, as well as taking 11 American Samoa, his adopted daughter. He and Joyce have feelings for each other. Finn Wolfhard as Mike Wheeler, middle child of Karen and Ted Wheeler, brother of Nancy and Holly, and one of 3 friends of Will Byers. He is an intelligent and conscientious student and is committed to his friends. He develops romantic feelings for 11 and later dates her. Millie Bobby Brown as 11/Jane Hopper, a young girl with telepathic and psychokinetic abilities, a result of being one of Dr. Brenner's subjects from Hawkins National Laboratory. She escapes the lab and eventually becomes an adoptive daughter to Jim Hopper, taking his surname, and adjusts to living a normal life with the help of Mike and his friends. Gatton Matarazzo as Dustin Henderson, one of Will Byers' friends. His cleidocranial dysplasia causes him to lisp. In the second season, he is proud of his new front teeth and is attracted to Max. In Season 3, he gets a girlfriend, Susie, whom he met at Camp Nowhere prior to the start of the season. Caleb McLaughlin as Lucas Sinclair, one of Will's friends. He is wary of 11 but later befriends her. In Season 2, he is one of Max's love interests and eventually becomes her boyfriend in Season 3. He becomes more popular in Season 4 as a result of joining the Hawkins High basketball team, which briefly puts him at odds with his regular friend group. Natalia Dyer as Nancy Wheeler, daughter of Karen and Ted and older sister of Mike and Holly. Studious and rule-abiding, Nancy finds another side of herself while investigating the Hawkins lab and the death of her friend Barbara. In the first 2 seasons, she is the girlfriend of Steve Harrington, but breaks up with him and then dates Jonathan Byers. She is an aspiring journalist. Charlie Heaton as Jonathan Byers, the older brother of Will Byers and the son of Joyce Byers. He is a quiet and kind-hearted teenager, an outsider at school, and an aspiring photographer. He is close with his mother and brother, and he becomes the boyfriend of Nancy Wheeler. Cara Buono as Karen Wheeler, mother of Nancy, Mike, and toddler Holly. Karen has a brief fling with Billy in Season 3. Matthew Modine as Martin Brenner, the scientist in charge of Hawkins Laboratory and Training 11. Manipulative and remote, he and his team are searching for 11 in Season 1 after she escapes. He is referred to as Papa by 11. In Season 4, he returns to help 11 gain her powers back and protects her from the government agents hunting her down. Noah Schnapp as Will Byers, the son of Joyce Byers and younger brother of Jonathan Byers. He is captured by a monster from the Upside Down, an alternate dimension discovered by Hawkins Laboratory scientists in Season 1. He later develops a connection to the Upside Down and the Mind Flayer due to his capture. Sadie Sink as Max Mayfield, Billy's younger stepsister, and a tomboy who catches the attention of both Lucas and Dustin, eventually dating Lucas. In Season 4, she is one of the teens that is targeted by Vecna. Joe Keery as Steve Harrington, a popular high school student and the boyfriend of Nancy Wheeler. He ostracizes Jonathan Byers but later comes to befriend him. He and Nancy later break up in Season 2 but remain friends. He is known as the babysitter of the group as he is often left to look after the kids. Dacre Montgomery as Billy Hargrove, Max's violent, unpredictable, and abusive older step-brother. He challenges Steve's popularity. In Season 3, he is controlled by the Mind Flayer and later sacrifices himself to protect the kids. Sean Astin as Bob Newby, a former schoolmate of Joyce and Hopper who runs the Hawkins Radio Shack and is Joyce's boyfriend, putting him at odds with Hopper. He dies at the end of Season 2 after being attacked by demo dogs. Paul Reiser as Sam Owens, a Department of Energy executive who replaces Brenner as director of Hawkins Laboratory. He is stubborn and committed to scientific research, yet empathetic to the residents of Hawkins and helps Hopper adopt Eleven as his legal daughter. He returns with Brenner in Season 4 to help Eleven gain back her powers and protects her from the government agents hunting her. Maya Hawke is Robin Buckley, a girl who works alongside Steve at the ice cream store in the mall who later comes out as a lesbian. She and Steve Harrington are close friends, having worked together at the Scoops Ahoy ice cream shop and later the video store. Prye Ferguson as Erica Sinclair, Lucas's 10-year-old sister who helps the group. She is revealed to be very smart and have avid interest in D&D. Brett Gelman as Murray Bauman, a conspiracy theorist, private investigator, and longtime friend of Hopper's who helps Nancy and Jonathan in Season 2 and Hopper and Joyce in Seasons 3 and 4. Episodes. Production. Development. Stranger Things was created by Matt and Ross Duffer, known professionally as the Duffer Brothers, who also serve as showrunners and head writers, as well as direct many of the episodes. The two had completed writing and producing their 2015 film Hidden, in which they had tried to emulate the style of M. Night Shyamalan. However, due to changes at Warner Bros., its distributor, the film did not see a wide release and the Duffer Brothers were unsure of their future. To their surprise, television producer Donald DeLine approached them, impressed with Hidden's script, and offered them the opportunity to work on episodes of Wayward Pines alongside Shyamalan. The brothers were mentored by Shyamalan during the episode's production so that when they finished, they felt they were ready to produce their own television series. The Duffer Brothers prepared a script that would essentially be similar to the series' actual pilot episode, along with a 20-page pitch book to help shop the series around for a network. They pitched the story to about 15 cable networks, all of which rejected the script on the basis that they felt a plot centered around children as leading characters would not work, asking them to make it a children's series or to drop the children and focus on Hopper's investigation in the paranormal. In early 2015, Dan Cohen, the VP of 21 Laps Entertainment, brought the script to his colleague Sean Levy. They subsequently invited the Duffer Brothers to their office and purchased the rights for the series, giving full authorship of it to the brothers. After reading the pilot, the streaming service Netflix purchased the whole season for an undisclosed amount. The series was subsequently announced for a planned 2016 release by Netflix in early April 2015. The Duffer Brothers stated that at the time they pitched to Netflix, the company had already been recognized for its original programming in shows such as House of Cards and Orange is the New Black, with well-recognized producers behind them, and were ready to start giving upcoming producers like them a chance. The brothers started casting and brought Levy and Cohen in as the other executive producers to discuss storylines, with Levy also directing for the show. The series was originally known as Montauk. The setting was then Montauk, New York, and nearby Long Island locations. Montauk figured into a number of real-world conspiracy theories involving secret government experiments. The brothers had chosen Montauk as it had further Spielberg ties with the film Jaws, where Montauk was used for the fictional setting of Amity Island. After deciding to change the narrative of the series to take place in the fictional town of Hawkins instead, the brothers felt they could now do things to the town, such as placing it under quarantine, that they really could not envision with a real location. With the change in location, they had to come up with a new title for the series under direction from Netflix's Ted Sarandos so that they could start marketing it to the public. The brothers started by using a copy of Stephen King's Firestarter novel to consider the title's font and appearance, and came up with a long list of potential alternatives. Stranger Things came about as it sounded similar to another King novel, Needful Things, though Matt noted they still had a lot of heated arguments over this final title. To pitch the series, the Duffer Brothers showcased images, footage, and music from classic 1970s and 1980s films such as E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Poltergeist, Hellraiser, Stand By Me, Firestarter, A Nightmare on Elm Street and Jaws, in order to establish the tone of the series. Writing. The idea of Stranger Things started with how the brothers felt they could take the concept of the 2013 film Prisoners, detailing the moral struggles a father goes through when his daughter is kidnapped, and expand it out over 8 or so hours in a serialized television approach. As they focused on the missing child aspect of the story, they wanted to introduce the idea of childlike sensibilities they could offer, and toyed around with the idea of a monster that could consume humans. The brothers thought the combination of these things was the best thing ever. To introduce this monster into the narrative, they considered bizarre experiments we had read about taking place in the Cold War, such as Project MK Ultra, which gave a way to ground the monster's existence in science rather than something spiritual. This also helped them to decide on using 1983 as the time period, as it was a year before the film Red Dawn came out, which focused on Cold War paranoia. Subsequently, they were able to use all their own personal inspirations from the 1980s, the decade they were born, as elements of the series, crafting it in the realm of science fiction and horror. Other influences cited by the Duffer Brothers include Stephen King novels, films produced by Steven Spielberg, John Carpenter, David Lynch, Wes Craven, and Guillermo del Toro, films such as Star Wars, Alien, and Stand By Me, Japanese anime such as Akira and Elfen Lied, and several video games, including Silent Hill, Dark Souls, and The Last of Us. The Duffer Brothers believe that they may have brought influences from other works unintentionally, including Beyond the Black Rainbow and Daryl, discovered by reviewing fan feedback on the series. Several websites and publications have found other pop culture references in the series, particularly references to 1980s pop culture. With Netflix as the platform, the Duffer Brothers were not limited to a typical 22-episode format, opting for the 8-episode approach. They had been concerned that a 22-episode season on broadcast television would be difficult to tell a cinematic story with that many episodes. 8 episodes allowed them to give time to characterization in addition to narrative development. If they had less time available, they would have had to remain committed to telling a horror film as soon as the monster was introduced and abandon the characterization. Within the 8 episodes, the brothers aimed to make the first season feel like a big movie with all the major plot lines completed so that the audience feels satisfied, but left enough unresolved to indicate there's a bigger mythology, and there's a lot of dangling threads at the end, something that could be explored in further seasons if Netflix opted to create more. Regarding writing for the children characters of the series, the Duffer Brothers considered themselves as outcasts from other students while in high school and thus found it easy to write for Mike and his friends, and particularly for Barb. Joyce was fashioned after Richard Dreyfuss' character Roy Neary in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, as she appears absolutely bonkers to everyone else as she tries to find Will. Casting. In June 2015, it was announced that Winona Ryder and David Harbour had joined the series as Joyce and as the unnamed chief of police, respectively. The brothers' casting director Carmen Cuba had suggested Ryder for the role of Joyce, which the two were immediately drawn to because of her predominance in the films of the 1980s. Levy believed Ryder could retch up the emotional urgency and yet find layers and nuance and different sides of. Ryder praised that the show's multiple storylines required her to act for Joyce as if she's out of her mind, but she's actually kind of onto something, and that the producers had faith she could pull off the difficult role. The Duffer Brothers had been interested in Harbour before, who until Stranger Things primarily had smaller roles as villainous characters, and they felt that he had been waiting too long for this opportunity to play a lead, while Harbour himself was thrilled by the script and the chance to play a broken, flawed, anti-hero character. Additional casting followed 2 months later with Finn Wolfhard as Mike, Millie Bobby Brown in an undisclosed role, Gaten Matarazzo as Dustin, Caleb McLaughlin as Lucas, Natalia Dyer as Nancy, and Charlie Heaton as Jonathan. In September 2015, Cara Buono joined the cast as Karen, followed by Matthew Modine as Martin Brenner a month later. Additional cast who recur include Noah Schnapp as Will, Shannon Purser as Barbara Barb Holland, Joe Keery as Steve Harrington, and Ross Partridge as Lonnie, among others. Actors auditioning for the children roles read lines from Stand By Me. The Duffer Brothers estimated they went through about 1,000 different child actors for the roles. They noted that Wolfhard was already a movie buff of the films from the 1980s period and easily filled the role, while they found Matarazzo's audition to be much more authentic than most of the other audition tapes, and selected him after a single viewing of his audition tape. As casting was started immediately after Netflix greenlit the show, and prior to the scripts being fully completed, this allowed some of the actors' takes on the roles to reflect into the script. The casting of the young actors for Will and his friends had been done just after the first script was completed, and subsequent scripts incorporated aspects from these actors. The brothers said Modine provided significant input on the character of Dr. Brenner, whom they had not really fleshed out before, as they considered him the hardest character to write for given his limited appearances within the narrative. Filming. The brothers had desired to film the series around the Long Island area to match the initial Montauk concept. However, with filming scheduled to take place in November 2015, it was difficult to shoot in Long Island in the cold weather, and the production started scouting locations in and around the Atlanta, Georgia, area. The brothers, who grew up in North Carolina, found many places that reminded them of their own childhoods in that area, and felt the area would work well with the narrative shift to the fictional town of Hawkins, Indiana. The filming of the first season began in November 2015 and was extensively done in Atlanta, Georgia, with the Duffer Brothers and Levy handling the direction of individual episodes. Jackson served as the basis of the fictional town of Hawkins, Indiana. Other shooting locations included the Georgia Mental Health Institute as the Hawkins National Laboratory site, Bellwood Quarry, and Patrick Henry High School in Stockbridge, Georgia, for the middle and high school scenes. Emory University's Continuing Education Department, the former City Hall in Douglasville, Georgia, the Georgia International Horse Park in Conyers, Georgia, the Probate Court in Butts County, Georgia, Old East Point Library and East Point First Baptist Church in East Point, Georgia, Fayetteville, Georgia, Stone Mountain Park, Palmetto, Georgia, and Winston, Georgia. Set work was done at Screen Gem Studios in Atlanta, and the series was filmed with a Red Dragon camera. Filming for the first season concluded in early 2016. After the third season finished filming, producers considered the idea of keeping the Starcourt Mall set as a permanent attraction for fans to visit, but ultimately decided against it. The fourth season of Stranger Things was expected to consist of 8 episodes, with the first episode titled Chapter 1, The Hellfire Club. Filming for the season was slated to begin in January 2020 and to last through August. With the release of a February 2020 teaser for the fourth season, the Duffers confirmed that production had started. Some filming for the fourth season took place at Lukics prison and nearby in Vilnius, Lithuania. In March 2020, production was stopped due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Production resumed in September 2020. Visual effects. To create the aged effect for the series, a film grain was added over the footage, which was captured by scanning in film stock from the 1980s. The Duffer Brothers wanted to scare the audience, but not to necessarily make the series violent or gory, following in line with how the 1980s Amblin Entertainment films drove the creation of the PG-13 movie rating. They said such films were much more about mood and atmosphere and suspense and dread than they are about gore, though they were not afraid to push into more scary elements, particularly towards the end of the first season. The brothers had wanted to avoid any computer-generated effects for the monster and other parts of the series and stay with practical effects, so they created an animatronic to play the part of the Demogorgon. However, the 6-month filming time left them little time to plan out and test practical effects rigs for some of the shots. They went with a middle ground of using constructed props, including one for the monster whenever they could, but for other shots, such as when the monster bursts through a wall, they opted to use digital effects. Post-production on the first season was completed the week before it was released to Netflix. The title sequence uses close-ups of the letters in the Stranger Things title with a red tint against a black background as they slide into place within the title. The sequence was created by the studio Imaginary Forces, formerly part of R/GA, led by creative director Michelle Doughty. Levy introduced the studio to the Duffer Brothers, who explained their vision of the 1980s-inspired series, which helped the studio to fix the concept the producers wanted. Later, but prior to filming, the producers sent Imaginary Forces the pilot script, the synth-heavy background music for the titles, as well as the various book covers from King and other authors that they had used to establish the title and imagery, and were looking for a similar approach for the series titles, primarily using a typographical sequence. They took inspiration from several title sequences of works from the 1980s that were previously designed by Richard Greenberg under R/GA, such as Altered States and The Dead Zone. They also got input from Dan Perry, who worked on the title credits of several 1980s films. Various iterations included having letters vanish, to reflect the missing theme of the series, and having letters cast shadows on others, alluding to the mysteries, before settling into the sliding letters. The studio began working on the title sequence before filming, and took about a month off during the filming process to let the producers get immersed in the series and come back with more input. Initially they had been working with various fonts for the title and used close ups of the best features of these fonts, but near the end the producers wanted to work with ITC Benguiat, requiring them to rework those shots. The final sequence is fully computer generated, but they took inspiration from testing some practical effects, such as using Kodalith masks as would have been done in the 1980s, to develop the appropriate filters for the rendering software. The individual episode title cards used a fly-through approach, similar to the film Bullet, which the producers had suggested to the studio. Music. Michael Stein and Kyle Dixon of the electronic band Survive have composed the original soundtrack for the show, including the show's theme song. It makes extensive use of synthesizers in homage to 1980s artists and film composers including Jean-Michel Jarre, Tangerine Dream, Vangelis, Goblin, John Carpenter, Giorgio Moroder, and Fabio Frizzi. According to Stein and Dixon, the Duffer Brothers had been fans of Survive's music since the 2014 film The Guest. Once the series was greenlit, the Duffer Brothers contacted Survive around July 2015 to ask if they were still doing music. The two provided the production team with dozens of songs from their band's past to gain their interest, helping to land them the role. In addition to original music, Stranger Things features period music from artists including Joy Division, Toto, New Order, The Bangles, Foreigner, Echo and the Bunnymen, Peter Gabriel, and Corey Hart, as well as excerpts from Tangerine Dream, John Carpenter, and Vangelis. Some songs have been used as narrative elements, such as The Clash's Should I Stay or Should I Go within the first season, and Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill in the fourth. Some of these licensed songs saw subsequent resurgence on sales charts after the respective seasons of Stranger Things aired, notably Running Up That Hill and Metallica's Master of Puppets from the fourth season, and Limel's The Never-Ending Story from the third season. Soundtracks containing separately the original compositions and the licensed music for each season have been released by Lakeshore Records. Release. The first season consisted of 8 one-hour-long episodes which were released worldwide on Netflix on July 15, 2016, in Ultra HD 4K. The second season, consisting of 9 episodes, was released on October 27, 2017, in HDR. The third season once again consists of 8 episodes, and was released on July 4, 2019. The fourth season, consisting of 9 episodes, was released in 2 volumes on May 27 and July 1, 2022, respectively. In February 2022, Netflix renewed the series for a 5th and final season. Shortly after the 4th season's release, viewers reported that Will's friends did not acknowledge his birthday in an episode of the season that took place on that day. The Duffers said in an interview that they could rectify the matter by changing its month, which they called George Lucasing the situation, in reference to the canon changes that George Lucas had made to the original Star Wars trilogy to match what the prequel trilogy had added. Some viewers took this to imply that scenes from earlier seasons were also being edited, including one scene where Jonathan takes discreet pictures of a pool party that Steve, Nancy, and Barbara are holding. The writers stated that no scenes from previous seasons have ever been cut or re-edited, including this scene. Home media. The first season of Stranger Things was released on a Blu-ray/DVD combo pack exclusively to Target retailers on October 17, 2017, and the same for the 4K/Blu-ray combo pack on November 15, 2017. Both of which includes vintage CBS Fox VHS-inspired packaging. The second season received a similar release on November 6, 2018. Reception. Audience viewership. Netflix did not initially reveal subscriber viewership numbers for their original series, and Symphony Technology Group compiled data for the season based on people using software on their phones that measures television viewing by detecting a program's sound. According to Symphony, within the first 35 days of release, Stranger Things averaged ratings of around 14.07 million adults between the ages of 18-49 in the United States. This made it the third most watched season of Netflix original content in the US at the time, behind the first season of Fuller House and fourth season of Orange is the New Black. In a September 2016 analysis, Netflix found that Stranger Things hooked viewers by the second episode of the first season, indicating that the second episode was the first installment that led at least 70% of viewers who watched that episode to complete the entire first season of a show. For the third season, Netflix revealed that the show had broken viewing records for Netflix, with 40.7 million households having watched the show in its first 4 days, and 18.2 million already watched the entire series within that time frame. Within its first month, the third season was watched by 64 million households, setting a new record for the most watched original Netflix series. The series is the most followed TV show on social media app TV Times history, with over 5 million followers. Critical response. Review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes gave the first season an approval rating of 97% based on 91 reviews and a weighted average rating of 8.12/10. The site's critical consensus states, exciting, heartbreaking, and sometimes scary, Stranger Things acts as an addictive homage to Spielberg films and vintage 1980s television. The New York Times has compared the show to Rob Reiner's Stand By Me, relating their nostalgic feel by finding that timeless moment where everything seemed tantalizingly, scarily new. Review aggregator Metacritic gave the first season a normalized score of 76 out of 100 based on 34 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. On Rotten Tomatoes, the second season has an approval rating of 94% based on 150 reviews and an average rating of 7.86/10. The site's critical consensus states, Stranger Things' slow-building sophomore season balances moments of humor and a nostalgic sweetness against a growing horror that's all the more effective thanks to the show's full-bodied characters and evocative tone. On Metacritic, the second season has a normalized score of 78 out of 100, based on 33 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. On Rotten Tomatoes, the third season has an approval rating of 89% based on 140 reviews and an average rating of 7.86/10. The site's critical consensus states, vibrant and charming, Stranger Things transforms itself into a riveting if familiar summer ride that basks in its neon-laden nostalgia without losing sight of the rich relationships that make the series so endearing. On Metacritic, the third season has a normalized score of 72 out of 100, based on 28 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. On Rotten Tomatoes, the fourth season holds an approval rating of 88% based on 185 reviews, with an average rating of 7.90/10. The site's critical consensus reads, darker and denser than its predecessors, Stranger Things' fourth chapter sets the stage for the show's final season in typically binge-worthy fashion. On Metacritic, the fourth season's 2 volumes have scores of 69 out of 100 based on 29 critics and 74 out of 100 based on 18 critics, both indicating generally favorable reviews. Stranger Things was ranked third best TV show of the year by The Guardian and Empire. It was also included on the Atlantic's Best TV Show of 2017 list. Commentary. Stranger Things gained a dedicated fan base soon after its release. One area of focus was the character of Barb, Nancy's nerdy friend and classmate who is taken and killed by the monster early in the season. According to actress Shannon Purser, Barb wasn't supposed to be a big deal, and the Duffer Brothers had not gone into great detail about the character since the focus was on finding Will. However, many fans sympathized with the character. Laura Bradley of Vanity Fair suggested that Barb would be a similar misfit in society, and looks more like someone you might actually meet in real life compared to the other characters, particularly Nancy. Hashtags grew in popularity after the series release, such as #I'm with Barb and #Justice for Barb, and several fan sites and forums were created to support her. Purser did not return for the second season, but the Duffer Brothers used the real-life Justice for Barb movement as inspiration for narrative at the start of the second season. Nancy addresses the fact that no one ever cares about Barb. Purser and several media outlets took her nomination as Barb for Outstanding Guest Actress in a Drama Series in the Primetime Emmy Awards as achieving justice for Barb, highlighting how well her character was received. Another impact of the series has been an increased demand for Eggo waffles, as they are shown to be Eleven's favorite food in several episodes and are seen as a representation of the series. The Kellogg Company manufactures Eggo and had not been part of the production prior to the first season's release, but they recognized the market impact of the series. They provided a vintage 1980s Eggo television advertisement for Netflix to use in its Super Bowl Lee commercial, and they intend to become more involved with cross-promotion. Coca-Cola released a limited run of New Coke to coincide with the third season of the show, which takes place in 1985. Controversies. In April 2018, filmmaker Charlie Kessler filed a lawsuit against the Duffer Brothers, claiming that they stole his idea behind his short film Montauk, which featured a similar premise of a missing boy, a nearby military base doing otherworldly experiments, and a monster from another dimension. Kessler directed the film and debuted it at the 2012 Hamptons International Film Festival. During the 2014 Tribeca Film Festival, he pitched his film to the Duffer Brothers and later gave them the script, ideas, story, and film for a larger film idea which he called the Montauk Project. Kessler contended that the Duffer brothers used his ideas to devise the premise for Stranger Things and sought a third of the income that they had made from the series. The Duffer brothers' lawyer stated that they never saw Kessler's film nor spoke to him regarding it, and that Kessler had no input into their concepts for Stranger Things. The judge denied summary judgment for the Duffer brothers in April 2019, allowing Kessler's suit to proceed to trial. Just before the trial was due to start in May 2019, Kessler withdrew his lawsuit after hearing the depositions and seeing documents from as early as 2010 which showed him that the Duffers had independently come up with the concept of Stranger Things. Journalists have noted that the idea of supernatural events around Montauk had originated due to urban legend of the Montauk Project, which came to light from the 1992 book The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time. In September 2017, multiple media outlets published articles about a cease and desist letter sent by a Netflix in-house attorney to the operator of a Stranger Things-themed bar in Chicago. The letter included humorous references to the series, "Unless I'm living in the Upside Down, we're not going to go full Dr. Brenner on you, the Demogorgon is not always as forgiving." The letter also won praise from lawyers for its even-handedness in not demanding immediate closure of the bar, only demanding that the bar not remain open without Netflix's permission past its initial scheduled run. Accolades. Stranger Things has received numerous awards and nominations across the entertainment industry, including 10 Primetime Emmy Award nominations and 4 Golden Globe Award nominations through the second season. The series cast has received several of these. The series' first season cast won the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Drama Series, while series leads Ryder, Brown, and Harbour have earned individual awards and nominations. Other media. Beyond Stranger Things / None. Tie-in books. Penguin Random House partnered with Netflix to release a series of books related to Stranger Things, starting in late 2018. These include How to Survive in a Stranger Things World, a children's book released on November 13, 2018, that offers advice, wisdom, and warnings from Stranger Things. They have also published the behind-the-scenes book Stranger Things, World Turns Upside Down, the official behind-the-scenes companion, and a 2-in-1 Hawkins Middle School Yearbook / Hawkins High School Yearbook. Visions from the Upside Down, Stranger Things Artbook was released on October 15, 2019. Will Byers' Secret Files was released on September 24, 2019. Stranger Things, the official sticker album was released on June 15, 2021. Stranger Things, the official coloring book will be released on June 28, 2022. A Stranger Things themed Little Golden Book, Stranger Things, We Can Count on 11 is scheduled for release on July 5, 2022. Insight Editions will release Stranger Things Tarot Deck and Guidebook on August 16, 2022, followed by Stranger Things, The Ultimate Pop-Up Book on August 30, 2022. In the second quarter of 2019, as part of its Silver Archive series, UK publisher Obverse Books released a book on the first season of Stranger Things by writer Paul Driscoll. Novels. Comics. Collected editions. Tabletop games. Hasbro published a licensed version of a Stranger Things themed Dungeons & Dragons starter kit in May 2019. The kit, besides including instruction books, character sheets, and dice, includes a campaign called The Hunt for the Thessal Hydra, which the children played in the first season, as well as Demogorgon minifigs. Magic: The Gathering will include a series of Stranger Things crossover cards as part of its special Secret Lair series in 2021. Video games. Mobile games. PlayStation VR game. PC. Cancelled Telltale game. Podcasts. In July 2019, a 3-episode behind-the-scenes, Stranger Things 3 podcast was released, taking a look at the making of the show's third season. It was hosted by Dan Taberski. A 6-episode scripted podcast companion to the Rebel Robin novel, entitled Rebel Robin, Surviving Hawkins, was released in mid-2021. Maya Hawke reprises her role as Robin, Sean Marr plays her favorite teacher Mr. Hauser, and Lauren Shippen writes and directs. Stranger Things Experience. From 16 to June 19, 2022, Netflix South Africa partnered with Fourways Mall to operate the Stranger Things Experience. The experience previously operated at the Canal Walk Mall in Cape Town. Come to Fourways Mall and immerse yourself in this epic, mysterious and fantastic world. The terror and excitement of heroes Mike, Will, Dustin, Lucas and Eleven, as you make your way through the unbelievable, interactive moments, from the most watched English series to hit screens in May.